Hello, welcome, and thanks for listening to Crimes of the Basquelands. Quick content warning, this podcast details crimes and descriptions of violence that may be disturbing or triggering. It may not be suitable for all listeners. We'll do our best to warn listeners about what to expect before each episode and to include them in our show notes. So enjoy the show.
Watch your back, and a trench is gonna get you. Watch your back, and a trench is gonna get you. Watch your back, oh, there's a crime here. It's a coming from the Australia. Gotta watch those red hands. It's the crimes of the Basquelands. It's the crimes of the Basquelands.
Hi, Dougal.
Hey, Jules. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Good to hear. Me too. Yeah, it's been a chill week.
Nice. I didn't even ask.
But
I'm so happy for you
chill.
that you had a chill week. I have not had a chill week.
No, you started work this week.
No, I started last week, but I just realized how much time work takes up. And you know.
Overvalued, people. Just give that up. Why bother?
Why bother?
Yeah, let's reduce work.
Well, because we have to pay bills.
I mean, just for a little bit more until the AI takes over.
Then we do have no creative, people making podcasts.
What do you mean that we're going to start making all the podcasts because the AI can deal with all the paperwork?
True.
Open
and
accounts.
And just pay us, yeah. I'd like to just be paid, yeah.
So as we were saying, it's a crime podcast. Crimes of the Basque Country.
No, Douglas, come on.
Basquelands.
It's the Crimes of the Basquelands.
It is. I'm bad with names. I would have thought a podcast name would have stuck in my head, but
even your own, you would have thought your own podcast would stick in your mind.
Shocking.
Yeah, it is. It's a true crime podcast, but it's not all crime. It's everything that's kind of weird or
some of it is health and safety. Some of it's more history,
tragedy, whatever.
Yeah. We thought of a hashtag we're gonna try to start using, which is a hashtag MomSafe, right?
MomSafe, yes.
It's a MomSafe episode.
Yeah, because both of our moms don't like gory stuff. Yeah, they don't like to listen to murder and stuff. So if it's an episode that they're like, oh, okay, this is not murder.
Yeah, we should do that. We should do that.
So
it's in our list. So there are very hashtag safe ones. How safe is this one?
This one's not safe for moms.
Not safe for moms.
Unfortunately.
And it's a two-parter.
Is a murder.
It's a two-parter.
Ah, yes. So this week we're doing a two-parter, yes. There's just so much to say about this one. So we can't do it all in one.
No,
so
it's going to be fun.
Put it into two.
We're going to have to have you back and listen to the rest.
So what are we drinking this week?
We always have drinks with us, and we invite our listeners to join if they can.
Yeah, and if you go on our website, you can see we have a drink link on our website to see what we drank that week.
Yeah, and it's not sponsored. It's just for fun.
No, it's not. Nobody's paying us for this.
Not yet. We're open for it. We will.
If you want to pay us, promote your drinks.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
We'll say the truth.
We'll say what we really think about your drink. No, we won't.
Indeed.
We would totally fake it.
I'm having
the coins.
A very commercial Estrella Galicia beer.
Yeah, which isn't Basque.
It's not Basque. It's from Galicia, another region of the Spanish states that has different languages and culture and things like that.
And it's autonomous.
They're on little cute dialect.
What does that mean? Autonomous. You want to explain the autonomous regions?
Yeah, it's like I think kind of a big subject, but in general, a federal state.
Quick one, a little summary.
Yeah, like the typical country you think about. It's like there's some federal rules, and then everybody's got different states, and then you have different levels of what you can and can't do. And then I would say especially kingdoms. You get Scotland. There's in the UK, right? And then Wales. So they're like mini countries because it's a united kingdom of different kingdoms.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened with Spain originally as well.
It was kingdoms.
Yeah. So Navarre was the Basque kingdom. And then just areas were brought in at different times. So after the dictatorship, there was they returned powers to these regions, but some are more autonomous than others. So the Basque Country is the most autonomous, and then you kind of go down in scales. It's kind of like very case by case basis.
Yeah.
Because
well, it depends on what they could put on the table, right? In terms of what they can give to the federal state, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing
what
is...
they provide in terms of the GPD, right?
GDP,
yeah.
I mean, not only that, it's also to do with the languages that we have, and also to do with historical situations. Like the Basque Country always had something called the fueros, which are kind of like their like mini constitution. It's like, please respect us. We don't charge taxes.
These
basically
are the laws of our land, right?
Yeah, it used to be just very business friendly in the Basque Country, basically, for the Middle Ages, and they always made the kings sign to respect that kind of business friendliness of the Basque Country. So because of that, the GDP here was quite high. And it's part of that negotiation. It was, hey, look, we've been in this agreement with the Spanish crown for centuries, but we've always had our sort of tax autonomy, since the beginning. So they argue that back, whereas Galicia never had that autonomy, and they haven't gotten it back. So I don't really know.
What about Catalonia? Do you know?
They don't get their own taxes like we do. Like there's only tax offices in the Basque Country. And
do they have their own health system like we do?
I think they do. Yeah, I think they do. And that's the thing, some communities have just the generic Spanish system, and then some communities have a whole health system from themselves. And I think Basque Country, Catalonia for sure have it, but I'm not sure how many others.
Well, thank you for that little explanation of
intro about my beer. And then your wine.
Oh, yes. So my wine is actually Basque, right? It's from Álava, right?
El Coto.
El Coto, which is a pretty popular brand.
It's quite a big one.
And it's tasty. It's nice. I'm having a rueda, no? Or verdejo?
Oh, it's just, I think it said blanco.
Just white. White wine.
Yeah. Does it taste very different from a rueda?
I wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Really?
Just by tasting it right now, if this is verdejo, rueda, whatever.
Because you're pretty, you go for verdejo or rueda, which amongst them,
I actually really enjoy
hard.
Galician wine. I like the Albarino.
They're great. They're great.
But,
and I would say,
yes, if I'm going to go to a bar and just order a generic whatever, I just ask for rueda or verdejo. And
I mean, that's the thing. I thought, since you were drinking it so much, I thought you would already be able to tell, it's not a verdejo.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
One day,
my palate is not that,
one day.
distinguished.
In 10 years, you'll taste the blanco and
you'll
go like,
so?
what?
Sure. I don't know. We'll see. Let's place our bets. I don't know. I don't know about that. So, should we get into our story?
Let's
do it.
I'm excited, yet a little bit worried.
About the murder?
Of course.
Yeah.
Let's see how...
See, Douglas is not even somebody that's really into murder.
No.
He just got roped into this true crime thing because it's what I like, so...
It's fun, though.
Yeah.
I get to be squeamish, and then...
But our moms, no.
No. They just skip.
Okay, let's get it started. All right, so my sources for this story were Wikipedia, CBS News, Washington Post, Podles.org, Texas Monthly, 48 Hours, which is a CBS program. Yeah, it's a TV show. The podcasts that I listened to were Buried Bones and Southern Fried True Crime. So, warning to our listeners, this episode does include sexual assault, and it does, of course, include murder. Okay? So there's our disclaimer.
Shocking.
All right, so this week our story takes place in the USA.
Yeah, because a lot of Basque people emigrated to the United States and made that their home, and there's many descendants there, so we would expect to
And in this
find...
one, I think it's more like Bascos in Mexico that then immigrated into
Okay.
Americas.
I mean,
USA.
When I went around Latin America, you would have euskalecheas, which are there. It basically means a Basque house, and they're usually like, let's call it a cultural center. And so they'll have usually a bar and then a space for doing some events.
Yeah.
And so
we have that in Boise.
Yeah, like I never saw that in the US
Center,
or California, or sorry, I was going to say Canada. But, they have them in Chile and Argentina and Bolivia and Peru, so it's like all over the place.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yes.
If you know what to look for.
Because the Bascos, they like to stick together, they like to identify each other and get together, and
it's a place where you can, at least historically you could go to speak Basque with other people.
Yeah. All right, so our tenuous link to the Basque Country, Euskadi, is our victim's surname. So her last name for you American listeners. Her surname is Garza, or Garza.
Garza, Garza.
Or Garza.
As you would say.
And here they would pronounce it Garza, right? And then there they would say Garza. So I'm going to say Garza.
Here it would be Garza. With a very sibilant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Garza.
Garza, okay.
And, actually, it's a cute little, we're already circling back. It's actually both a Basque and a Galician surname.
Yes, I saw that in my research.
So,
the origin of the name, yeah.
Going back to our drinks.
Yeah, there we go. We have the perfect drinks tonight for this.
It's all falling into place.
Well, regardless, this name is super common in northern Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah. So, this explains why our protagonist of this story is from there.
Yeah, actually.
From Texas, actually.
Northern Mexico is well known for being an area where Basque people went to because there was mining. So, Basque people have been mining for centuries, I guess since the Roman times. And, basically they knew what to do when they were colonizing that area. And so they would bring Basque people specifically to take care of mines. And Nuevo León and Monterrey and that area is like, historically had a lot of mines. So that's probably the historical link there.
Yeah. My one-sentence synopsis for this crime. Okay, ready?
Yes.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Pious beauty queen is murdered in a small Texas town while the culprit escapes capture for decades, thanks to a lengthy cover-up.
Oh.
Irene Garza was born in 1934 to parents Nicholas and Josephina. Her parents owned and ran a dry cleaning business in McAllen, Texas, which is located along the border with Mexico in the region known as the Rio Grande Valley. McAllen lies at the very southern tip of the valley and is directly north of the Mexican town of Reynosa.
Reynosa, yeah.
So McAllen and Reynosa are often referred to as sister cities, as a lot of commerce and tourism moves between the two, via a toll bridge that was built in 1940 by the city of McAllen. At the time of Irene's birth, McAllen was a very small town with less than 10,000 residents.
Wow.
And at the time of her death, in 1960, it was still quite small, with around 30,000 residents.
Okay.
So small town Texas, right on the border of Mexico. Like many of McAllen's Hispanic or Latinx or Mexican-American community, the Garzas lived on what you might call the wrong side of the tracks. At this time, these border towns were quite overtly practiced segregation between the whites and all other people of color.
Yeah, the 30s.
The south side of town was predominantly made up of Hispanic, Mexican-American, Latinx families. And of course, as is often the case, it was where the more impoverished neighborhoods were located. Okay? Everything from schools to hospitals were segregated, but as the Hispanic population grew and the white population became the minority, these institutions became less and less divided along racial lines. Okay? According to one source, McAllen was one of the more quote-unquote tolerant towns around the valley. So, I don't know what that means.
Well,
I couldn't find any examples why they were more tolerant. So, but one example...
No lynching.
Yeah, I don't know. Something. But one example of discrimination was they said that the one public swimming pool in town barred all Hispanics from use.
Oh my gosh. That is so depressing.
Right? So these families coped in the fucking hot Texas summers by swimming in the town's irrigation canals. So at age 15, Irene's parents' business had become so prosperous that they were able to relocate and move to the north side of the tracks into a more affluent and predominantly Anglo neighborhood in downtown McAllen. The Garzas became one of the very few other Hispanic families living there, which were made up of doctors, lawyers, and merchants. Okay, so there was a few other Hispanic families living there, but they were in very high-level positions, right? So
good on them.
Irene had no trouble fitting in, as she was described as fair-skinned, obviously, and beautiful, right?
Good to hear.
So she was probably able to code switch quite easily.
I would assume so.
And of course, if you're good looking, you could take, that can take you a long way.
Yeah, it gives you an extra pass.
Yeah. People overlook their prejudices when they want to, set their male gaze on you, right?
Yeah. Tell me about
So, yeah. Irene and her sister Josie attended the mostly white McAllen High, where they transcended other racial hurdles. The sisters were the very first Mexican Americans to become twirlers in the marching band.
Oh, cute.
And Irene became the first Mexican American drum majorette in the high school's history.
You say majorette?
Drum majorette.
That's a bit sexist, no? Just let her be a drum major. In any case.
No, this is the 60s. 50s, 60s.
No, yeah, I mean.
So, no. You have to gender things, right? Because,
Yeah.
Education was deeply encouraged in the family. When Irene and Josie's parents, Nicholas and Josephina, were growing up in McAllen, education was only permitted to Hispanics until 5th grade.
Oh my god.
So that's like 10, 11 years old.
That is depressing.
Right?
That's part of American history I did not know. I mean, it's not surprising.
Nope, not surprising at all.
But oh my gosh.
Right?
I'm sorry. It's wow.
All right. So, yeah, they were very, very education.
Good.
Pro-education. They really wanted their daughters to do well, right? So they imbued in their daughters' ambitions of higher education by reiterating the idea that it wasn't if you go to college, but when you go to college.
That's so nice.
Irene was the first in their family to attend university, earning a degree in elementary education from Pan American College in Edinburgh, Texas. And then her sister Josie followed in her footsteps and got the same degree later on in elementary education.
Well done for the family.
While Irene was in college, she was just as popular as she was in high school, or maybe even more so. She was crowned both homecoming and prom queen.
Wow.
Which, I didn't know it was a thing at university. I thought that was just a high school thing.
Yeah.
But in all the research, it said she was prom queen, homecoming queen at the university. So,
I mean,
maybe they carried those things on into...
Maybe it was the 60s or the 40s.
Right, maybe it was something they were like, this is fun. This is fun for everybody to do.
What year are we talking, ish?
1950s.
Okay.
Late 1950s. She was also crowned Miss All South Texas Sweetheart in 1958, which is a beauty pageant.
Texas. That sounds big.
Yeah.
Well done.
Only South Texas.
She's kind of in the light, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm just foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Such a shame. She was doing so well.
So she was a beauty queen. She was prom queen. She was homecoming queen. She's doing great.
She's making it happen.
Well, she's basically being, giving accolades for being pretty.
Well, she's...
I mean, not to dismiss her in any way. I'm just saying that's how she was able to overcome these racial bullshit.
But she is breaking glass ceilings, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's
absolutely
what I wanted to just...
Absolutely. Okay, let's take a break.
See you in a minute. And we're back.
Okay. So after college, Irene returned to McAllen and became a second grade teacher. So that's 7 and 8 year olds.
Okay. Thanks for translating.
Yeah, I figure.
It would mean nothing
I
to
needed
me
to, say what age that was. So second grade.
Think of the Germans listening. They have no idea.
Right. So give them an idea. So she became a second grade teacher at Thigpen Elementary.
Wow. Some names there.
And this elementary was on the south side of the tracks.
Okay.
Right? So her students were from the most disadvantaged families living in McAllen, some of which were so poor that they came to class barefoot.
Probably hungry too.
Yeah, for sure. Irene would often spend her paycheck on buying them clothes and school supplies.
Oh, she's so sweet.
I know. So, a really nice lady. Douglas is going to open a beer. Click. There we go. She also volunteered her time at local retirement facilities.
Oh, she's so sweet.
I know. She's a very nice woman.
Oh my gosh.
She was keeping them company. She'd even do the hair and nails for the female residents.
So
so they could
sweet.
look their best when their families came to visit them.
That is the sweetest thing ever.
I know.
Yeah.
So, aside from all of Irene's altruistic qualities that made her so beloved around town,
Absolutely. 10 points.
one
for her.
thing stood out about her overall. It was her devotion to her Catholic faith. So, Catholicism has always been a huge part of the country, particularly in the Rio Grande Valley, ever since the Spanish colonization. So, particularly in that area, right?
Okay.
Because of the Mexican adjacent,
Right.
part of the country. That's where Catholicism reigns
Catholics,
supreme.
yes.
The
Yes.
Catholics are Mexico is, you would say, is Catholic, right?
Yeah. And we just...
America is probably more Christian,
More Protestant.
Protestant. Yeah.
To bring it back to Basque Country a slightly teeny bit, the Catholic Church was very important here, even during the Civil
Yes.
Wars. So a lot of times
Yes,
the
Catholic
Basques,
reigns supreme, yeah.
the Basques were on the side of the Catholics, basically. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, just to bring it into the Basquelands.
True, very true. And maybe next episode, when we do part 2, we can talk a little more about that.
Yeah.
So, so she was a member of the Legion of Mary. Have you ever heard of this?
No, I guess it's a group of women who are devoted to Catholicism and who think that they should be as pure as Mary some way. Goodness know what way.
I'm sure that's something, yes, that must be part of it. So this is a Catholic organization of volunteers.
Okay. Oh, so taking care of older people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It
That's very
was
sweet.
founded in 1912, and it was founded and headquartered in Dublin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, another very Catholic place.
Yeah. So they do their weekly apostolic, thank you. Their weekly apostolic work by visiting families and the sick in hospitals or in their homes, and just basically carrying out do-gooderness
How sweet.
around the community. She would not only attend Mass every Sunday, but she would also go to confession every Saturday. So you know what confession is?
I do. I
Okay.
heard about it.
Right. So you go to the church and you confess your sins, and then the priest tells you to say 12 Hail Marys and maybe something else to do to make up for your sins, and then all is forgiven, right?
Yeah.
I remember having to go to confession when I was a kid. It was just now we're all going to confession, so you'd have to go to confession, and I'd have to be thinking oh, what okay, I gotta think of something to say. So I'd have to come up with something to say, I hit my brother, or I said something bad to my mom, right? You'd have to come up with something. So this woman going to confession, can you imagine? What would she have to say?
I mean, I think one of the cruelest parts of that kind of religion is it's basically impossible to be the person that the religion expects you to be. And that, and some people don't really care that they're not perfect, but some people want to try and fulfill the whole thing.
All right, so in a letter that she wrote to a friend, she said, quote, "Remember the last time we talked? I told you I was afraid of death? Well, I think I'm cured. You see, I've been going to Mass and communion daily, and you can't imagine the courage and faith it has given me." This letter was sent to her friend 12 days before her death.
Oh, man.
Do you know what communion is?
Yes. It's just taking the little hostias, the little white biscuits.
Exactly.
And some
The
wine.
body of Christ and the blood of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
like, yeah, it's very random.
So, I mean, I was raised Catholic, but I honestly never really grasped the significance of, like, what that would mean to take communion. Like, I'm not sure what a real faith-driven person would feel about taking communion, because I'd never felt that about it.
It's the first time anybody has posed that question to me.
Like, I've been like, to say to somebody, to your friend, like, I've been taking communion daily, and it's filled me with. So I'm not sure. Like, I can't really speak on it.
But even if it's once, like, what is eating the body of the guy you believe in, or drinking his blood?
I mean, like, let's not get into it.
It feels pretty sick to me already. No, but like.
No. Yes, the concept is quite odd, right?
Like if
I mean, it sounds like we're bashing Catholicism, but religion in general is kind of crazy and weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is odd.
The confession I get, like, you get rid of something, right? That's worrying you, and
absolutely.
You get a solution to that.
And that's what I actually
sense.
do love about Catholicism, is that you can be like, I have done the worst fucking thing that you can imagine, and if I just go tell my priest, he's going to be like, say 10 Hail Marys.
Maybe 1,000.
And an Our Father.
If it's too bad.
And you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So, the weekend of Easter Sunday, Irene was busy making Easter baskets for all her younger family members. This is in preparation of their annual Easter egg hunt.
How sweet.
Did you ever do Easter egg hunts growing up?
Yeah, my mom she liked painting things, and
like decorating the eggs. And then did she hide them for you guys to go find? Or
she did do that a couple of times. I remember, like, I was very young. I only remember painting the eggs and then finding a couple.
Okay.
So it must have been really young, but it was like, I remember, like, it was more like an art project.
Yeah.
At least in my life.
Yeah.
And so I remember it was like we'd tie something around some eggs, and then we had like wax that we dropped on a shell, and we boiled it with different. They were all natural things, so it was like with beetroot and then some other flour that dyed it yellow.
Wow,
and it was pretty fun.
That's supernatural.
It was very nice.
I was an American.
Yeah.
So they were always boiled eggs, but you always had like the paints, the specialized paints that you would use to decorate your eggs, and then you could have. And of course, as over the years, there's stencils and all these different things you could put on the eggs to decorate them. So Easter egg decoration was like a big thing too. And then the Easter egg hunt was huge.
Yeah, I mean, because
you'd hide the eggs, but you'd also hide like chocolates. Other goodies.
I didn't think we had that part. Yeah, we just found eggs as far as I remember.
I loved it. I fucking love these type of things. This is when religion really spoke to me.
Easter egg hunt.
I was like, let's go find some stuff, and then like, as long as chocolate's involved, it's a game. Who can find more? Like a competition between my siblings and I. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So food was like super important for me when it came to church.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would say, like, I think a lot of religions are like that. Like, food is a big draw, right? But especially getting
food
like
is
kids
culture, right? Food
right,
is,
exactly.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah.
Especially if you've emigrated into the U.S. and you're, still holding on to some traditions from your homeland, food is going to be so much more important.
True. I mean, I wouldn't say that's the case with my family, but I'd say that, they used food and they used these types of games to get us involved in church.
Right.
So, like, we'd have the Easter egg hunt before church so that we were all pumped up. And then they'd be like, okay, now we have to go to church. Right?
How disappointing.
And then you'd hear the story about how Jesus died. Actually, I did enjoy those sermons more than I did, or those masses, than I did other ones. Because I knew the story, right? Like, it was a tried and true story. He died. 3 days later, he rose from the dead. La, la, la.
I mean, you would have been...
It would have been like reading a child's book to your kid over and over again. So you knew the ending, you knew everything was going to happen. So it was like those kind of masses were like, to me, like, I know what happens, right? I know what happens at the end. All right, so it was Saturday, April 16th, 1960. And per usual, our 25-year-old Irene did as she always did, and she left home the home that she still shared with her parents and her sister, to go to confession at Sacred Heart Church in McAllen. Okay? So like she was saying before, she always went to confession on Saturdays and then Mass on Sundays, right?
Right, okay.
She borrowed the family car and left the house around 6:30 that night, telling her mother that she wouldn't be long. The church was a mere 12 blocks from their house, and as I said, this is part of her routine. Yeah. So Irene always stood out wherever she went. Her beauty and poise. She always was wearing like really nice clothes. She was like always dressed really nicely. It always garnered her like a lot of attention. Okay, so she didn't go unnoticed either on this night. You know.
So still witnesses are noticing her.
Yes. Yeah. Some accounts that I read implied that some men would go to Mass simply to just get a look at her.
Oh, wow.
So she was seen by one witness entering the church and making the sign of the cross. Another saw her kneeling by herself in a pew in prayer. Another recalled that she'd asked a parishioner if she could cut into the long line at the confessional, because she said she was in a hurry. Okay? Some noticed that as she went into the confessional that she draped a white lace veil over her face.
Very, very traditional, huh?
But one thing that everybody interviewed could not recall was ever seeing her leave the church.
Oh, right. Oh, my gosh.
So nobody saw her leave. They all saw her come in, they saw her doing all these things, but they never saw her leave. Let's take a break before we get into the really horrible shit.
Okay. And we're back.
We're back. Okay, so this is where it's going to get...
Serious back part.
Yeah, this is where it's going to get bad. When she didn't return home that evening, her parents surmised that perhaps she decided to stay for the midnight mass, because, you know, it's Easter Sunday, so there would be a midnight mass, right?
Such a bad false flag, though. That is so unlucky. They would have been word way earlier if it was the normal time.
Right.
That's so sad.
Yeah. By 3 a.m., she hadn't come home. There was no sign of her. And her parents either, this is because I have conflicting information. So either her parents went directly to the McAllen police to report her missing that night, or her friends and family went out looking for her.
Okay. They probably did both.
Before then calling the authorities.
Right.
So,
sure.
Either way, they were like, okay.
That was the night. They looked for her and they reported
that
her
she was
missing.
Yeah. This set off one of the biggest search and rescue efforts in McAllen's history to this point.
Nice.
So on Easter Sunday, April 17th, 70 members of the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Department, many of which were on horseback, combed the orange groves and the surrounding brush around the city. Divers were sent out to drag the irrigation canals.
Wow.
The ones that fed off the Rio Grande River. 2 border control planes were circling in the skies above, looking for her.
Wow.
And 65 members of the National Guards were also called in to assist in the search.
That makes me happy.
So that's huge,
right?
right?
Makes me happy, yeah. For the size of the place.
Yeah.
It's
and
really
this is
impressive.
like 30,000 people.
Yeah, it's not too big.
Right.
So that's a lot of effort trying to help out. That's sweet.
Detectives discovered that her car was still found to be parked at the church. So they canvassed the neighborhood in a 32-block radius that surrounded the church, the Sacred Heart Church. They were going to door, interviewing parishioners. They were interviewing people, like had they seen anything, and they also went to interview parishioners who had attended church Saturday night, the ones that were there when she was there. And that's when they got all that information.
Very responsible.
On April 18th, the first grim signs of Irene's fate started to appear. A passerby named P.W. Miller was driving down an empty stretch of McColl Road when he spotted a small beige high-heeled shoe. It lay 2 inches from the curb. It was a woman's left foot fiancée's, I don't know if that's a brand pump.
Okay.
It was a bit scuffed and the heel tap was missing. So the heel tap would be the little rubber tap on the bottom of the heel.
Okay.
When it was shown to Irene's family, they confirmed that it had matched the pair that she was last seen wearing.
Mm-hmm.
Further north along the road, police found a crumpled white lace veil.
Oh.
You know, much like the one that the people saw her wearing.
Yeah.
When she went into confession.
Yeah. Sounds correct.
Mm-hmm.
And this is some street, okay, leading away from the church.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is actually kind of farther out.
Mm-hmm.
It's nowhere near the church.
Okay.
Okay. In a field near the road, a citizen involved in the search effort found a black patent leather purse, and Irene's driver's license was found inside the purse.
Oh, man. This is not looking good.
Mm-hmm. So it appeared as though someone had thrown these items from a moving car.
Oh, really?
The way that they were strewn.
Interesting.
In like different parts of the road.
Okay.
Along the road, right? Like, so one here.
So it could have been
shoe
her
here, and then the
trying to...
lace here, the veil here, and then the purse there, you know. The purse was dusted for prints, but none were found. Other leads were coming into the police. For instance, a woman called the Garza's home, claiming to be Irene, and saying that she'd been kidnapped and was being held in a hotel at the nearby town of Hidalgo.
Okay.
Police went to the hotel to find that it was just a hoax. There was nobody...
Right. They're just looking for attention. Some people having a laugh.
Yeah. In Edinburgh, a waitress reported that a customer told her that he had killed Irene and that she would be next.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. When the police interviewed this man, he admitted that he had said this, but it was only a joke. Well, he went on to excuse his behavior by saying he'd had spent the day across the border in Mexico and had drunk half a bottle of tequila.
Half a bottle of tequila, I mean...
All right, so on April 21st, the Thursday following Easter Sunday,
okay.
the police received a call at 7:40 a.m. from somebody reporting that they'd discovered a woman's body floating face down in the 2nd Street Canal. The canal was several miles from where the other items were discovered, and curious looky-loos all gathered round to no doubt witness the removal of what everybody assumed was the body of Irene Garza.
Right, me too.
Police detectives and sheriff deputies, they carefully lifted the body from the water using a tarp. She was fully dressed in her lavender blouse, but it was unbuttoned. Her skirt and petticoat, while in the water, were ballooned up over her head. Her shoes and her underwear were missing. Once definitive identification was made, you know, which was carried out in those days by having some poor family member identify the body.
I mean, I think it's still probably mostly that way, right?
No, I mean, they use DNA and stuff now.
Really?
Well, maybe not. Maybe that's more.
Even for, like, if it's unidentifiable, if it's, like, been 3 weeks and it's too swollen, maybe not, but still.
Yeah.
I don't. Anyway.
So,
oh, man.
the police went to the Garza home to inform her poor parents the following day on
somebody
Friday.
had to go. That's horrible.
So, at autopsy, the medical examiners noted terrible bruising on her face, particularly on the right side of her head or her face. She had 2 black eyes, and it appeared as though she'd been beaten with a hard object. Her cause of death was determined to be suffocation. Also included in her death certificate was that she'd been raped while she was in a coma or unconscious.
Oh my gosh.
It was suggested that she'd been deceased for fewer than 4 days based on the level of decomposition.
Oh.
So this is like 6 days after she went missing.
Right.
So they speculated that she'd been held captive for at least a day before being killed. So the water in the canal seemed to have, washed away any physical evidence like blood, semen, hair. None of that was there, right? So they had nothing, like no physical evidence
to
determine who'd done this to her, right? So 4 blocks south from where the body was found, along the 2nd Street Canal, which is where they found her, the police found tire tracks next to the canal and a faint imprint in the mud of her petticoat.
Wow.
They also found a shoe print, and embedded in the print was a strand of hair that they determined to be Irene's. Okay, so hair evidence, right? Today, it debunked as like a science, right? Like you can't say this hair is definitively hers unless there's like a root where they can get DNA. So like let's say you find like a victim with hair gripped in their hand from fighting somebody.
Right.
And there's that means they pulled it out.
Yeah.
Right? And there might be a root, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, a strand of hair is usually just broken off of somebody's head. So you can't really say whether it's like... So you can say, like, it looks very similar to the victim's hair, or it looks very similar to an animal hair. Because they can use animal hair, too, like, as evidence to say, like, when they have a suspect, they owned this type of animal with this type of hair, right?
Sure.
So...
The more evidence, the better. As always, yeah.
So they at the time, they were saying, like, this looks like her hair, right? But that was embedded in the shoe print, right? So, and of course, there's like 1960s and there's no DNA evidence at the time. Like, DNA
it was in the 80s that came in,
Mid-80s, mid-80s. So, in this case, you can only say that it, like, resembles the hair. And also, the ground was so soaked that it was difficult to identify any details on the sole of the shoe print. So the best, to the best of their ability, they could only determine that it was a men's shoe, size 8 to 11.
That's a big difference there.
Right? Like
Jesus,
that.
Yeah. Can't you tell if it's a 9 or an 11 or an 8? I mean...
10 to 11, right?
Still. Yeah, exactly.
But maybe it was only the heel. Could have only been the what would you call that part?
Sure, the front part of the shoe.
So, you never know. It could have been just... that was the only print that was there, right?
But if it was very muddy, you would assume you could see the whole thing somewhere.
I'm assuming it wasn't, though. So that's why they couldn't really say how big it was, right?
Yep, here, us criticizing the...
I know. God damn it, Cap. Say how they should have done. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, should have done. So, it appeared as though her body had been transported by car and then dumped in the canal where where these tire tracks and footprint were
it sounds
located,
like that.
right?
Yeah,
and then had floated down
very
to
logical.
where the police, where it was discovered by the
further down the canal.
Right. So, E.E. Vickers, who was the sheriff at the time, he declared that he would solve this crime, and he offered an award of $2,500 for information that led to the capture of this killer.
Sounds very reasonable.
Do you want to guess how much that is today's money? $2,500. $2,500.
Yeah, that was more confusing. I get it first place. $2,500 in 1960s money?
In today's money. Because I looked it up and I got it right here.
Let's guess 50,000.
26,000.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my first guess, but I was going to be more.
All right, so there's your range, right?
That's pretty good.
The mayor of McAllen, he figuratively handed out a blank check to the police to say, use this, use any and all resources to find out who did this. And then there was also a local businessman who put up $10,000 of reward money.
Well done.
Also to assist in finding, and anybody that came forward to give information to find this person. How much do you think 10,000? So the police put up 25.
Was 25. That's 100,000.
And that was 25,000.
That's 100,000 then.
Correct. Oh, a little over 100,000.
Yes.
That's a lot, though. That's a huge reward. Right?
Yeah. We would hope that would help the case.
So the law enforcement, they interviewed more than 500 people across several Texas towns, in the area, which included known sex offenders, members of Garza's family. Because you always look at look at the people closest to them, ex-boyfriends, co-workers, all that. There were more than 500 polygraphs done.
It was the
not 500. Sorry, 50.
Sure,
my
okay.
mistake.
I was like,
50,
whoa.
50. Yeah,
50 is pretty good still, though. But
50.
Yeah.
That's a lot, though.
It is. And I mean, it's kind of a fallible system, and yet they still didn't come up with anything, which is pretty admirable.
Yep, to no avail.
Apparently, this is at least superficially working. It's incredible already. Yeah.
In late April, the police drained and dragged the section of the canal where they had found the tire tracks and the shoe print.
Okay.
And where they believed that her body had been dumped into the canal. Embedded in the mud below, and only a few feet from where they believed she'd gone into the water.
Right.
they found a light green Eastman Kodak slide viewer with a long black cord.
Okay, translate that.
So, Kodak, obviously, Eastman Kodak is the brand.
The brand for the cameras.
A slide viewer. So it'd be like a
slide viewer.
So it'd be
right.
like some machine
You
back
would
in the
view
day where
slides.
you put in a slide and then you could look at it in a more.
Yeah, it felt like you
It'd
were.
be like, I think you'd hold it up to your face.
It's like-
and you put a slide in, and then you could look at it like a photograph, right?
Yeah, and it looked like you had a big TV in front of you with that image.
Maybe like or just like you, because a slide is a very small image, right? And then if you put the slide,
That's
so
all
it's
it
a
does.
small image that's captured onto a negative that then you can view in a little machine. You stick the slide into a machine, and then you can see basically a snapshot or a photograph.
Yeah, technically it's not a
That's
negative.
photograph. A slide viewer is like a negative.
Because you have to reveal the negative for it to get the proper colors again and fix them and not like
yeah, okay.
re-expose
You're right.
it.
You're
That's
right.
what I mean.
So it's like the
know what they
negative of
call
the
it.
photo.
Yeah.
So then it's
It's like a mini photo, a transparent photo. But
Yeah.
you put in a thing that you
that,
see the
then
light behind
you can
it.
see the photograph.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's what it is.
It's like a
slide
still VR.
viewer. So for all of you that know what a still VR is, that's what it is. Okay. So they find this slide viewer.
That is some weird piece of evidence, but I'm excited.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm scared
So
also.
not only that,
It's got
Douglas,
things in it.
hang on to your chapella. This is where you got to hang on to your chapella.
Yeah, it sounds like
They
it's gonna be
also
bad.
found in
Okay.
the canal,
Mm-hmm.
right where they found this slide viewer, some candlesticks
Oh my gosh.
that were similar to those from the Sacred Heart Church.
from the church for sure. For sure. I mean,
So, for whatever reason, they made no effort to inquire whether or not the injuries that they found on Irene's head or face could have been caused by these candlesticks.
oh, the candlesticks. Oh, right. Like I was.
Right?
Yeah, it's the thing that
The
holds the
base that
candle.
holds the candle.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so much. That's
For whatever reason, they never compared that to her injuries that were found on her face.
It smells like a priest to me.
And as for the Kodak slide viewer, the police made an appeal to the public by publishing a photo of it in the local newspapers
Good move.
with the hopes, finding the owner.
Yeah.
And their first break in the case finally came out.
Oh.
2 days later, they were contacted by the newest member of the Sacred Heart Church's clergy, a Father John Feit.
Fight.
F-E-I-T. Feit.
F-E-I-T.
They pronounce it Feit.
Okay. Yeah.
He admitted that the slide viewer was his and that he'd purchased it the previous summer at a drugstore in Port Isabel.
Is that Texas?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that guy killed him. Kill her.
Well, we'll find out because that's the end of part 1. Do we have any mini crime time for the end of this episode?
I really like Megan's.
Come on. What was Megan's?
Megan's was the sheep, right?
That's true. We have Megan joining us remotely right now. So Megan is currently in Wales.
Mm-hmm.
And
She was having a walk.
so there was a sign that said, can you remind us what it said?
It was like, please close the gate.
Please close the gate so that the sheep don't get in or something
Don't
like that.
enter the cemetery, I think.
Yeah, because it was an image, the video was pointing at this big cemetery.
Big cemetery, yeah.
Yeah, it says please close gate. Hang on, let me just get it. Close gate to stop sheep entering cemetery.
Please close gate so sheep stop entering cemetery.
It's cute.
And then she zoomed in and there was a shit ton of sheep just walking around the cemetery.
Shit ton of sheep should be a poem. I think that's
They
beautiful.
were out there living their best lives.
Total mini
So
crime.
that is
If there ever was a mini crime.
time. The sheep were like, fuck you and your gate. We're
Yeah.
coming in here and we're going to walk around the cemetery.
And
Whether you like it or not.
just because of the title of our podcast, I will say sheepkeeping is a very Basque enterprise.
True, yes. The
So-
Basques are very much known for their sheep herding
Yeah.
skills.
There's a little connections there
In
for
Idaho,
sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
In
and,
Idaho, a lot of them went over there to be sheep herders.
Well-
Sheep herders.
Sheep herders.
Sheep
Is that Is that the pirate version of sheep herders?
That's how we say it in Idaho.
No, it's very, very typical here. And like sheep cheese is big here,
Yeah,
and it's delicious.
huge. Yeah,
and my uncle lives in California in a little. Well, it's not little. It's a suburb of LA these days, Thousand Oaks.
Oh, yeah.
But that was also totally like
Basques.
Basque sheep herding area
Yeah.
in the olden days. So there's the tenuous connection
There
to
you
the Basque
go.
country.
Tenuous link. Sheep running amok.
Yeah. Well, that was lovely.
Yeah.
It was a great first half of the story. I'm looking forward to the second part. Let's catch some bad people.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Bueno, Douglas. It's
It's been a pleasure. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to have all our
Yes,
dedicated
thank you for
listeners.
listening. Thank you so much.
Share
We
with
love
a
you.
friend, do all that stuff, and see you
We
next
bid
time.
you agur. Crimes of the Basquelands is written and produced by
Douglas D. Carvalho,
Julie Garcia.
I'm Megan Dooley.
The sound and editing for each episode by
Douglas D. Carvalho,
I'm Megan Dooley.
Theme song written by
Douglas D. Carvalho,
Julie Garcia.
I'm Megan Dooley.
Sung by the choir with no name and produced by Tom Squires. Podcast art by Distinct Signal. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Crimes of the Basquelands and contact us at crimesofthebasquelands@gmail.com with story ideas worldwide which have a connection to the Basque Country or any rave reviews. If you like our podcast, please subscribe, like, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time,
Agur.